What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Too Pop to Handle. I'm your host, Andrew Nucatola, your pop culture best friend. And as always, I hope you guys are having a fabulous week. Now, if you cannot tell by the title of this episode, I have been changed for good, for lack of a better word. I have officially seen the epic conclusion, as they're calling it, to Wicked Part 1, and I have so much to say about it. Now, I will say, I did leave the theater speechless, which is a lot for, that's not an easy feat for me. Like, a lot of things don't leave me speechless. However, after seeing this movie last night, I truly left that theater and it was like, I need to gather my thoughts because what I just witnessed with my own 2 eyes, or 4 eyes, if you want to include my glasses, It was incredible. It met every expectation. I am so over the moon, over the rainbow, if you will, with this movie. And we are going to do an entire full Wicked for Good review later on in the episode. But of course, we have to do business as usual and go through our Drew releases, some pop culture rapid fire, though it does feel like Wicked is the only thing happening in the world right now because it is the biggest thing happening in the world. There are some other things happening in the pop culture world that are pretty exciting. And honestly, I'm very excited for all the other things that we're chatting about, though. I am bursting at the seams, ready to talk about Wicked. So I'm not even going to dilly-dally with an intro this episode. I'm not even going to keep it going. I'm going to keep this short, keep this sweet, take a note from Sabrina Carpenter, and keep the ball rolling because the sooner I get into the show, the sooner I can talk about the insanely, incredibly fantastic movie that is Wicked for Good. So let's kick this show off and get right to it because I need to talk about this movie. Kicking things off, as we always do here at the podcast, with our Drew releases, our new music releases from last week, and our new releases coming up this week. Now, last week we had some really exciting releases. Kicking it off incredibly strong with Robyn's new single, Dopamine, her first solo single in 7 years. And my God, was it worth every single second that we waited for this song? I am obsessed. I truly cannot get enough. It is the perfect pop song. It is scratching all the itches in my brain. It feels like true old school Robyn. Like everything that we know and love about Robyn is fully depicted in this song, and I cannot get enough of it. It is perfection. And we're rounding the end of the year, you don't expect to have a new contender for one of your favorite songs of the year this late in the year. We are 5-6 weeks away from 2026, which saying that out loud is absolutely insane, but that's neither here nor there. I did not expect to have a new contender for one of my favorite songs of the year. And then Robyn comes in and drops this song. And suddenly I'm rethinking every song I've listened to this entire year because I'm obsessed. I cannot get enough. It is catchy. The hook, the chorus, the way the beat comes in, everything about it is just perfect. And like I said, it is scratching every itch in my brain. I cannot get enough. And I hope that there is more. I hope this is just the beginning of an incredible album rollout and comeback for Robyn. And she is going to give us perfect pop music as she always does. And I cannot wait to see what is next. But this song is truly, it is magnificent. I cannot get enough. And another artist that I just cannot get enough of, it's Jay Stevens. You guys know I love her so much. She released a new project. It's total sellout. It's kind of a combination of her first 2 EPs, Sellout 1, Sellout 2, and then some extra new songs sprinkled in there. I'm loving it. I am so ready for Jay Stevens to have her main it girl moment. I just think she has that it factor that really you need in today's, in today's pop girl game. You need to have the personality, you need to have the look, you need to have the sound, you need to have the performing chops. I just think she really has what it takes to be a really big thing. And I am watching her with such a close eye because I'm waiting for her to have her big moment. And I cannot wait for that day to come. This project is great. Every project she puts out is incredible. I'm obsessed with her. And like I said, I am just waiting for her big moment because I know it is coming. And when it happens, we will have this podcast to look back at when I was saying that Jay Stevens needs to be a big pop girl moment in the next coming months because I'm telling you, she is everything. And those were the only 2 projects that were on my radar for last week. This week coming up, we have, of course, the Wicked for Good soundtrack. I, for one, cannot wait to play the soundtrack on repeat, especially after seeing the movie and hearing them sing it in the movie. When they sing it in the movie, they're doing it live on set, and then they do the recorded version for the album, of course. So I'm excited to hear the difference between the movie version and the soundtrack version. I know that was a big conversation last year, so I'm really excited to see how that kind of all plays out this year. And I'm just excited for the Wicked, the lead up to Wicked is always so exciting, of course, like, you know, where the press tours and everything like that. But once the movie is out and the soundtrack is out, like, I am so ready for my entire For You page to be the Wicked soundtrack again. Like, I cannot wait to see the way that people take these songs and just run with them again. And we are so lucky to be living in a world in which Wicked, the movie, is happening in this lifetime. I am so excited for this soundtrack. I'm so excited for everybody else to see it. I'm so excited to talk about it in just a few minutes. But we have some other very exciting releases that we don't know exactly what it is, but Kesha is teasing something. And this perfectly leads us right into our pop culture rapid fire, our moment from the week that were just too pop to handle. Kesha is rebranding herself back to Kesha with the $, and I, for one, am freaking the fuck out over this. So a few days ago, she posted a video on TikTok and Instagram with her name, and she spray painted the $signs through the S, and the caption said KeshaParty.com. And when you went to KeshaParty.com, it was literally laid out like a MySpace layout. So for any of my listeners who weren't old enough to be on MySpace, that is what MySpace used to look like. And yes, you did miss out on the prime time of the internet if you were not able to be on MySpace. That being said, she posts that and she's been like teasing something the whole week. She's been saying like, I'm listening to Animal and Cannibal all week long. You guys aren't ready. Everything she's posting when there's an S, it's a $. And then literally like 20 minutes ago, she posted a photo that said Kesha Wood, like the Hollywood sign, and said, tomorrow I still is who I is. And whatever Kesha is brewing up, whatever she is doing and rebranding back to this like Animal Cannibal era Kesha, this like party girl moment, I am so ready for. Like, this is truly the biggest recession indicator I can think of. And I say that with the utmost respect. Like, I say that truly with the absolute most respect in my heart, because thinking back to when Kesha was releasing Animal and Cannibal, like it was just such a different time for pop music and for the world. Like, the world was not as dark of a place as it is now. Of course, it wasn't perfect, but I mean, the world was a lot nicer when Kesha was releasing TikTok, Grow a Pair, you know, Dinosaur. That era of Kesha was just unmatched. And the fact that she is teasing something alluding to that era is making me feel insane. Now, it is coming up on the 15-year or this year at least, was the 15-year anniversary of both Animal and Cannibal. I don't know if it has something to do with maybe like a re-record of the album. I know she was thinking about doing that because she was doing them. All of the live versions of these songs are now a new revamped version after everything that happened with her and Dr. Luke. She's kind of revamped them and gave them a new Kesha spin. So I could see this being a re-record era for her, of her just like re-releasing both albums completely remastered, all new music, and just like kissing that era goodbye. But I really don't know what to expect for this announcement. I am so excited for whatever it is. The announcement is coming today on release day, which is November 19th. If you're listening to today, this comes out. It will be announced at some point today. If you're listening to this after the 19th, the announcement is already here and we will chat about it next week. But whatever Kesha is cooking up, specifically Kesha with the $, I am on board and cannot wait to see what this woman has up her sleeve. God, I cannot believe Kesha with the $sign is back. I feel like I've waited my entire life for this moment. And speaking of moments, I feel like I've waited my entire life for the next moment of the week that was just too pop to handle. The Devil Wears Prada 2 teaser is here, and I am unwell over the fact that we are getting this sequel. I cannot wait. Now, of course, we know this movie is coming. We knew that this was happening. We've seen them filming in New York. We know all these different people are in it. I feel like everybody and their mother is going to be in The Devil Wears Prada 2. But something about seeing this teaser last week really just made it feel so real. And like, I literally went to the set and I saw Meryl Streep filming and getting in her car. Like, I literally could not have been more on set if I tried to be, but seeing this teaser fully just made it feel real. So the teaser doesn't give us much about the plot, but it gives us the perfect amount to hold us over. We see Miranda walking through the runway halls. We see her with her heels, which the heels have been making quite the controversy. People are saying Miranda Priestley would never be wearing those studded heels in the year 2025. And I beg to differ, because when you think about the way that fashion works, fashion cycles, you know, eras come and go, and every few years, things that came out of trend come back into trend. And the people who make those trends are the people who would work at runway. So I feel like Miranda Priestley is always the one who's going to be 2 steps ahead of a fashion trend. So just because those studded heels aren't trending now, they will be trending once this movie comes out, because I promise you, it is going to be the wave of what happens after Miranda Priestley wears these studded red heels around the runway offices. Mark my words, it will happen. But that being said, we see Miranda Priestly get into the elevator, which is obviously an ode to the original movie. Everyone runs away when Miranda is going into the elevator, and nobody dares to get into the elevator with Miranda Priestly. You know, this is like it's like a rule, you know, not to get in the elevator with her. She gets in the elevator, and who puts their hand in to stop it to get in with her? Andy, Sachs, Anne Hathaway, which just says so much without saying too much. Like the fact that Andy is now comfortable to get in the elevator with Miranda just goes to show the fact that like Andy really has the upper hand, I feel like, in this situation and in this movie. And we know a little bit about the plot. I've talked about it a few times on here. And, you know, Miranda's basically struggling to keep Runway afloat in this new digital age. And Miranda is going to Emily, who is played by Emily Blunt, because she is like the head of a digital marketing firm, if I remember correctly. So my theory for this movie is that like Emily refuses to work with Miranda unless Andy is in the middle, because Andy really was this like driving force at Runway when she was there and like really shook things up from being, you know, the girl who was showing up in a lumpy blue sweater or cerulean, whatever you want to call it, to then becoming like the one who went with Miranda to Paris. And, you know, we know that even though she did leave her in Paris, she leaves her a glowing review for her next interview and her next job. That's the way the movie ends. So like there is some type of, you know, love and bond between the three of them. And I think like the main plot is going to be like them, like Miranda having to swallow her pride and bringing Andy back into Runway and into this new kind of phase for the magazine or however, you know, digital publication, wherever it goes. So the fact that Andy is getting in the elevator with Miranda is huge. And I cannot wait for this movie. We really don't have that much longer to wait. It's only like 5 more months until this movie comes out May 1st, 2026. And I will be giving you guys all of the updates as we get closer and closer to this movie, because I just cannot wait. Like I feel so lucky to be witnessing the Devil Wears Prada sequel. Like it is just never a sequel I thought that we would get. I feel like, you know, the first movie really stands alone so perfectly, but like there is room, you know, there is wiggle room for a sequel, and the way that they're targeting it and the way that they're keeping it really like up to date and in real time with what is actually happening with magazines nowadays. I mean, there's so many print magazines that are going under because print just isn't a thing anymore. You know, it breaks my heart that it's not. I wish print was a bigger medium still, because I love a physical magazine, but it's just the reality of like where media is going. So I'm really excited to see the way that they navigate this new world and kind of watching Miranda Priestly in this new era. I mean, even thinking in the first movie, she gets divorced at the end of the movie, and like, where are the girls? Like, are the twins at college now? They must be. And is she remarried, or what's going on with that? Like, she's really, when Devil Wears Prada ends, Miranda's really coming into this new era of her life, and she's so worried about the tabloids and what they're going to say about, you know, this she-devil who works at Runway is like being, you know, this monster ex-wife and things like that. And we don't really know what happens after the divorce happens when she gets back to New York. So I'm assuming we're going to get like caught up to speed there, figure out what happened with the divorce, figure out what's going on with her and her life. And then like really seeing this like new coming of age moment for Miranda, where she's finally like swallowing her pride and allowing other people in and really allowing them to kind of show her the ropes of this new industry, I guess, if you want to call it, that she is not well versed in. So I'm really excited to see how, you know, this all plays out. But this teaser, God, I am so excited to see all of them back on screen. It's going to be incredible. And moving on to the next moment of the week that was just too pop to handle. BravoCon happened in Las Vegas over the weekend, and there was so much coming out of this weekend. Now, if you don't listen to the show and you're new here, I don't keep up with everything Bravo. I have my select shows that I watch, and, you know, I go in and out here and there, but I'm pretty consistent with RHONY and Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Those are my two that I'm like always tapped into. Even though RHONY isn't great, I do watch it because I live in New York, so I just like to, you know, stay in tune and see what's happening. And also, RHONY and Real Housewives of New Jersey were like my two big shows when I was in high school. Like I was obsessed with those growing up, and then I kind of fell off of it when I went to college. So getting back into RHONY at least has been like very nostalgic for me. And then Salt Lake City is just some of the best reality television we have ever gotten in the world. So it is just incredible. But we got some very interesting updates on the RHONY front. So we learned that Erin, Sai, and Jessel are all coming back for the new season of RHONY. I think it's technically season 17, and then like season 3 of the reboot. You know, they like tacked on the new seasons to the older ones, which I think was such a bad idea, but I'm not Andy Cohen, so not my job to decide that. So Erin, Sai, and Jessel are back. All of the other girls are out. We knew that Uba was out. We knew that Brynn was out, obviously. It was kind of on the fence if Jenna was out. I figured she would be, but now that it's confirmed, I'm like, okay, yeah, like I could have seen it going either way. I do think Jenna didn't hate filming as much as you would think that she did, but I do think she didn't really bring too much to the show, though I loved her so much on the show. I thought she's just an interesting person. Like, she as herself is interesting, and she doesn't need the drama of a housewife franchise to like shake up her life or make things more interesting, because she does kind of have this like luxurious, kind of life that she lives. So she is out. Everybody is out except for Erin, Sai, and Jessel. And there was this rumored cast going around that Carol, Luann, Dorinda, and Sonia were all coming back with those 3 newbies. And I honestly would be so on board for that combo. I think what RHONY really needs in this, if they're continuing the reboot, which they obviously are, I think bringing in those original ones that we love, a Luann, a Dorinda, a Sonia, a Carol. Thinking about Carol Radswell on Bravo in the year 2026 would literally, like, that is insane. That is something that I never thought I would would be like a would even be a thought. And the fact that like she went to BravoCon for the first time, I really thought that she was going to sign on for this new season of RHONY. However, she did say that it is not true, and they have not nailed down the rest of the cast yet. So whether they cast new people on the show, which I know that there've been a lot of names being thrown around for the RHONY reboot, and like other people who could come on, some like socialites, some social media people, things like that. So I don't know what route they're going to go, but I would love to see any of these women back on the show. I think these 4 would really just anchor the show a lot and bring back so many of those original fans and help kind of just like imagine seeing Dorinda and Sonia with Sai, Jessel, and Erin. Like, I just think it would be such a funny thing to watch, and seeing like old RHONY meets new RHONY and like how they all somehow figure out being friends and getting along. I just think it would be such a good show. But we will see. I don't know if they're going to bring back any of the originals. I don't know if they're going to completely recast the rest of them. It's only 3. They need at least, I would say, 6 people to make a housewife cast. I feel like 5 is like absolute bare minimum, but I do think that they need some extra people to shake this up. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get 3, 4 new cast members or recasting old people. So I'm really curious to see how that goes. They are supposed to start filming in January from what I've heard. So I guess we will find out soon. Even if they don't announce it right away, we will see who they're filming with, and we can kind of get an idea of who they're going to, have in their circles. I'm assuming Rebecca Minkoff is coming back as a friend of. I'm assuming she is out. I know she kind of had there was some backlash with her last season with her being on the show. So I'm assuming they're cutting her as well as a friend of. So there's a lot of opportunities for who they can bring and like what they can do with this show to keep going forward. And I'm always rooting for RHONY. Even when it's bad, I'm still rooting for it. So I would love to see like a big resurgence of this show and kind of cleaning up the mess that was the last 2 seasons with this new cast. Though I enjoyed the first season with the new cast. The second season, so I would love to see them really just like come back swinging and give us a killer 3rd season of this reboot and really just like nail it on the head and like show that like New York is a franchise that is here to stay, and it's a legacy brand in terms of Bravo, so they can't just let go of it. But I guess we will have to wait and see who is coming to shake up the Big Apple come January. The other big news that I think is really exciting is we are getting Real Housewives of Rhode Island. This has been rumored for quite some time, and there's been a lot of speculation about who's on the cast and what's going on. There was like that Instagram account that popped up a few months ago of the show, but it looked like it was being fan run. Like, it didn't look like it was actually run by Bravo, because it was just like not the best graphics and like not the best social strategy for it. And it seemed a little early to be like teasing things like that. However, a lot of the women who were on that page are in fact on the show. So whether that was an actual account or not, who knows? Regardless, I am so excited because Dolores is going to be a friend of on this season, and that alone sells me on watching the show. Like, I am in solely for Dolores, and I cannot wait to see what these women are like. I can't imagine what the luxurious side of living in Rhode Island looks like. Like, not that I don't think it is a luxurious place, because I know it is very expensive in certain parts of it, but I'm like, what about Rhode Island is going to make a good housewife season? I do trust it. I do trust that this is definitely going to give us, something of interest. Because I didn't even, like, Salt Lake City is not a place that I would have imagined would have been so juicy and dramatic. But, like, look at how incredible Salt Lake City Housewives is. Look at how incredible Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is. There is juice in these little pockets of the country, and it's not just in these huge major cities. So I am curious to see how Rhode Island holds up in a housewife standard, and I'm very excited for this new season. And I mean, just having Dolores back on this and like being a friend of. And apparently one of her like best friends is on the show, so she'll be with her a lot. Mind you, they look identical. Like I literally was watching the confessional in the trailer and I was like, that's not Dolores, but it's literally like her spitting image, and everybody on the cast looks like Dolores. But I am very excited to see what is in store for this new season of Real Housewives of Rhode Island. We'll have a new thing to recap every week for the TV recap. And of course, there was so much else that happened at BravoCon, but I'm not going to dive into every single thing because I don't watch every single franchise. So it would kind of be just me reading things that aren't, I'm not giving my opinion or my take. And it's like, nothing that I really need to bring to the table. What I will say, actually, Bronwyn Newport, you will always be famous. The way that she was reading Brittany on that panel when Brittany came in and was like, oh, I love your costume. She was like, Brittany, babe, I'm so happy I gave you that one line to be relevant with, because every time I'm here wearing new couture, you were giving me the same line back. And I love the way that Bronwyn can read somebody so flawlessly. She is truly one of a kind and I fucking love her. But we'll talk more about Bronwyn later in the TV recap. Moving on to the next moment of the week that was just too pop to handle. Lorde made some headlines over the weekend, which you guys know I love anytime Lorde is making headlines, because she brought out Sadie Sink to perform Greenlight with her in London at the O2. So she had 2 shows at the O2 Arena, and on the first night she brought out Sadie Sink and they danced to Greenlight together, which if you don't know, Sadie was in John Proctor as the villain, and the big moment in the show, they danced to Greenlight by Lorde on stage. And it's like this huge big lead up moment. I unfortunately did not get to see the show. I just it was one of those things that was on my list. I was like, oh, I'll go see it. And then I never made it to see it. And I regret every day not going to see the show. However, I know that Greenlight and Lorde and Taylor Swift and all these pop culture moments play such a huge part into this show. So seeing Lorde being so receptive of her music being in the show, and she went to go see it. We talked about it on the show when it happened. She went to go see it. I want to say it was like the last weekend that it was open, or like maybe one of the last weekends. I don't remember exactly. But she went to see it and like took pictures with the cast and talked to the director and the writer and everything. And you could just tell that she loved the show and she was so happy to be there and to see her music being part of what moved the show along. And I just think this is so fun. Like the fact that Sadie came out, they danced just like they do in the show, and just like a full circle moment to see this this Broadway show having its moment and then now coming to life on stage with Lorde. Also exciting news for Sadie Sink, which explains why she was in London. She's going to be in a new production of Romeo and Juliet on the West End. However, it is not the same production that Rachel Zegler and Kit Connor just did here on Broadway. So they're doing another production of Romeo and Juliet. I mean, I don't know how many times we can retell the story in a different way. It is quite literally the oldest tale in the book, but very exciting for Sadie Sink to be making her West End debut. I assume it's her West End debut. Maybe I'm making that up, but regardless, very exciting for Sadie. And now it makes sense why she was in London. I was like, why would she be at the London show? It didn't make sense until this morning when the announcement came out. So that made a lot of sense. Also, on the topic of Lorde, she's doing some festivals next year. There were already a few announced internationally, but as of today, she's doing Hinterland in Utah and the Kilby Block Party in Iowa. So it appears that the ultrasound era is not ending once this tour ends. She's going to keep it going into 2026 and just keep the vibes high. I would love for her to do Gov Ball next year. I don't know if that is something that is going to happen or is possible. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. I would love for her to do a New York festival next summer so I get another dose of Lorde. I'm seeing her in a month from today, actually, or a month from yesterday. December something, I don't know, at Barclays. So I'm seeing her very soon and I'm so excited. But I would love to have another Lorde show on my docket for next year. That would be fabulous, because we don't have many times in which Lorde is touring in our lifetime. So if I can add another show without having to travel to Utah or Iowa, that would be great. So we will see, but very happy to see that she is taking this ultrasound and virgin era into 2026, not just leaving it behind in 2025. And moving on to the next and final moment of the week that was just too pop to handle. Ariana Grande and Cher have been announced as the final host and musical guest for SNL's 2025 season. And honestly, I cannot think of a better or gayer way to end the year. This will be Ariana's 3rd time hosting the show and Cher's 2nd time being the musical guest, her first appearance since 1987. So it's been almost 40 years since Cher has been on as a musical guest. She's made appearances here and there on episodes and popped in, and she was at the SNL 50 concert which she performed at, but this is her first time in almost 40 years performing as a musical guest. So this is a huge show. This is going to be major. We all remember Ariana's episode last year. I mean, it broke records. It was the most watched episode since Elon Musk in 2021, drawing in 5.6 million live and same-day viewers. It also became the most watched episode ever on Peacock within the first 2 days, and it broke records for their social media engagement with over 516 million views across SNL's social channels. So like Ariana brought in numbers for SNL, and I mean, there were so many huge viral moments. The game night sketch, which she was playing her mom, the Jennifer Coolidge moment with Chloe Fineman was so much fun, and I mean, the biggest one, of course, being Domingo. I feel like Domingo really dominated last year in terms of like viral moments, and the way that SNL has, I think they've brought it back 4 or 5 times now. They have really like wrung Domingo dry, and I did say this when Sabrina was on that it needed to be the final Domingo, but I do fear they will probably put the nail in the coffin with Ariana at the end of this year, and I will allow it. I will allow one final Domingo sketch with Ariana, but after that, I think we really need to bury it 6 feet under. However, maybe they will just leave it with Sabrina and like leave it full circle and like keep it where it is, but I guess we will wait and see. I mean, this is going to be a huge episode, let alone Ariana, the share of it all, the final episode of the year. This is going to be major. And of course, it's obvious that like this is also trying to help Ariana's Oscar campaign. I believe that like voting for the Oscars start that weekend. If I remember correctly, I feel like it's literally like that week where they start putting in all of their campaigns and things like that. So it's very well timed. And I mean, looking at her time on SNL last time and just like all the things that she's been doing lately, I feel like she really is entering, I mean, she already is in this actress phase, but she really wants to be this like serious actress, where she did kind of shift into pop star for so long, and now she's getting back into it with American Horror Story, with Meet the Fockers. You know, I'm sure there are so many other projects coming her way, and she's doing the voice acting for that Dr. Seuss movie. Like, there's a lot in Ariana's pipeline that we know about, but there's even more, I'm sure, that we don't know about. And I'm really excited to see like how this Wicked for Good and all of this just kind of like skyrockets her into this next era of her life. It seems like this is exactly what she is ready for and what she wants to do. But this episode is going to be huge. Like, I'm so excited for this episode. And I mean, what better way to end 2025, which was honestly kind of a shitty year just for the world, than with an Ariana Grande and Cher crossover on SNL. Like, it really is going to be the cherry on top of an otherwise shitty year. And that wraps up all of our moments from the week that were just too pop to handle, which means the time has come to chat about Wicked for Good. Now, I know that last year this episode brought in a lot of new listeners. A lot of the people who stuck around and listen to the show now tell me all the time, I found you from your Wicked review. So if, and I hope that happened this episode, hello, welcome. It is so nice to meet you guys for the first time. Welcome to the Too Pop to Handle family. I would love to have you guys stay. If at any point during this review or this episode you were loving what you were hearing, please go ahead and leave me a 5-star rating. Do not be shy. It really means the world to me and would help me out a lot. But without further ado, let me give the people what they want, and let's get into my Wicked for Good review, because holy shit, I loved this movie so much. I think they did such a good job with the first movie with giving us these surprises and, you know, all of this, like, they really had to create this world of odds, and they were introducing us to these characters and these sets and, you know, really getting us ready for what was to come with the second movie, because the first one really just like sets the scene for what is coming in the second movie or the second act in the Broadway musical. So with this movie, we're going in, we know these characters, we know this world, like we've seen Emerald City, we've seen all of these incredible lands that they have built and these sets, and it really let us focus on the characters more on this, you know, this movie. Not that we didn't in the first one, but we weren't waiting for like an Idina Menzel or Kristen Chenoweth cameo. You know, we weren't getting these big wow moments because we were really focusing in on Elphaba and Glinda and all of the characters within the movie, which is exactly the way that the second part of the show is supposed to be digested. You know, we saw all the thrills and the fun, and we watched their, you know, their character arcs kind of be built. Now the second half is where shit gets real, and they did it so perfectly. I think the acting and the emotion in which they all had through this movie, the anger and the compassion and the empathy, and just like the way that they brought these characters to life, they did such a great job in the first movie. But I feel like with this one, they really had to, it's a much more twisted part of the story, the second act, because we're really seeing the true colors come through. You know, we're really seeing what the wizard and Madame Warble, what their overall goal is for Oz and how evil and twisted they are, or really Madame Warble. I feel like the wizard is kind of just clueless and just there to like play with his little train set and keep things going. But he does listen to, what, he is the mastermind behind all of this and, silencing the animals and things like that. So he's evil in his own way. But we really get to see all of this wickedness come to be, and how everyone has really turned on Elphaba because they think she is the one causing all of these issues, because they are throwing this propaganda out and they are the ones who are really painting the entire town green to think that Elphaba is awful and like this bad person. I was really just so impressed with the way that all of these actors brought these characters to such a different level. And I've got to give a shout out to Ethan Slater, because he truly stepped the fuck up in this movie and truly brought such a new anger and side of emotions to Bach that we did not see in the first movie. And without giving too much away, like he brings this rage and anger to the movie that all of the citizens of Oz are feeling. And he really you can feel it through the screen while you're watching him. And he really put his acting chops to work in this movie. So you guys can say whatever you want about him, make fun of his looks, make fun of this, make fun of SpongeBob, this, that, and the third. He was incredible in this movie. And I don't care what anybody says about him, he killed it in this film. There's one sequence, and I'm going to do this as spoiler free as possible. So I'm not going to spoil any of the plot, but it is just kind of, when I'm doing a review, there are things that are going to slip out. So I apologize in advance, but as spoiler free as possible. There's a sequence where Ariana, Glinda, and the wizard are performing and singing together in Emerald City. It's wonderful. And it is leading up to Glinda's wedding. And, Elphaba and the wizard kind of come to this truce, and they are agreeing to kind of come into this new phase and, work together to kind of make Oz better. And then quickly Elphaba realizes that he is a fraud and he is kind of still a bad man, and she wants nothing to do with him. And I'm not going to say why or like what she's implying, but she screams run at one point for whatever. It'll make sense when you see it. She screams run, and the emotion and anger that comes out of Cynthia Erivo's voice when she screams run at the wizard, I was ready to get up out of my seat and run out of the movie theater. I was like, is she talking to me? Like, she was so firm and direct with the way that she like projected this line at Jeff Goldblum. I legitimately was like, okay, we all got to go. Like, we have to run because Cynthia Erivo just told us to run. The delivery on that line was so perfect, and I have not stopped thinking about it since it happened. Another perfectly delivered scene was the fight scene between Glinda and Elphaba in Munchkinland. This was in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler as well. They are arguing, they're fighting in Munchkinland, and it is right after the house falls on Nessa Rose. But there is kind of a plot hole, and maybe this is just me being somebody who loves The Wizard of Oz, but I don't know. I'm definitely not the only one who notices this, but in The Wizard of Oz, the house falls on the Wicked Witch of the East, which is Nessa Rose. The house falls on her, and then the Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba, shows up in Munchkinland before Dorothy leaves to go follow the Yellow Brick Road to the Emerald City. Now, in Wicked for Good, it appears that Elphaba doesn't show up until after Dorothy leaves Munchkinland and Glinda sends her on her way. And I was just like, one of the most iconic lines from The Wizard of Oz is, "I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too." That line wouldn't exist if Elphaba shows up after Dorothy leaves, but in Wicked for Good, it's kind of implied that Elphaba wasn't there until after Dorothy leaves. And like, of course, it doesn't change the movie. This is all fake and made up. But to me, I was like, that is a huge part of The Wizard of Oz. That is it's one of the most iconic lines. And like, it is where Dorothy finds out and meets the Wicked Witch of the West. So if Dorothy leaves Munchkinland not meeting Elphaba or the Wicked Witch of the West, how is she introduced to her in this timeline? And again, this is such a nerding out moment for me. I'm just like, this is what I think about when I think about my favorite movie of all time now in this new light. But I don't know, it's just a little plot hole for me. However, does not change the fact that the fight scene between Elphaba and Glinda was so well done. I loved the way that there was clearly an anger and like a frustration between the two characters, but you could still feel the whimsical love that they have for each other between their characters. They were literally fighting. They were hitting each other with their broomsticks and their wands, and they were eventually like on the ground, literally fist fighting, but there's still this like whimsical love and silliness to their characters. You know, like Glinda's like, come here, Greenie, and like Elphaba's flying around and cackling like the witch does. And like there's still this like playfulness between the fight, even though they are arguing over her sister literally dying and Glinda giving away her shoes. Like it is a very serious thing that they are fighting over, but there's still this like fun playfulness to it. I just thought the acting in that scene was perfection. I loved it. And then another scene that really just like, really, I was on the edge of my seat. I had goosebumps was the tornado sequence. So Madame Morble is forming the tornado in which carries Dorothy's house from Kansas into Munchkinland. And the way that they did it and the way that you can see Michelle Yeoh like starting this tornado and then all of the people like taking cover in Munchkinland and in the Emerald City. And you start to see the house fly around and you start to see like everything just getting like all riled up. And just the way that they brought the house and the tornado into Wicked and like kind of cross the path, because that is where Wicked and the Wizard of Oz cross paths. You know, it is with that tornado and that twister, because the house falling on Nessa Rose is what turns Elphaba wicked, for, you know, for lack of a better word. And it was just so well done. And I literally was like sitting there. I was so tense watching this house fly through the sky, because I was like, holy fuck, like it's happening. This is the moment that like makes the entire, everything else in the Oz world is like, this is what leads up to it. You know, of course, Wicked comes after all the Wizard of Oz and, you know, L. Frank Baum novels. But like when you put it in a timeline order, like that is the moment that starts really the journey into Oz. And it was just like wild watching it happen in front of my eyes in this new movie. It was just like, it was a really surreal moment. And just the way that they did it was so incredible. I was floored. I will say I didn't cry as soon as I thought that I would. With the first movie, I literally saw Dorothy and the gang going down the Yellow Brick Road and heard No One Mourns the Wicked starting, and I was a mess. Like I just started hysterically crying from the jump. With this one, it took me a little bit longer. I would say it was like 20 to 30 minutes into the movie, and I didn't cry until I saw Cynthia Erivo and Jonathan Bailey performing As Long As You're Mine, and that is when I lost it. It was just... the vocals. I mean, we know that Cynthia and Jonathan can sing. Like, we knew it was going to be beautiful, but seeing it in front of my eyes and like watching them perform this song made me feel every emotion under the sun. Also, just like knowing that Fiyero ran away with Elphaba and like they're now in her like tree fort, whatever you want to call it, house thing. And like, I had this moment where I was like, wow, Elphaba has been living alone in this tree fort, whatever you want to call it, for so long. And she hasn't had anybody else there with her. And she kind of figured that was going to be her life forever. So seeing Fiyero there with her after she had figured that Fiyero turned on her and was trying to hunt her, when in reality he was trying to help her and like was kind of going behind the wizard's back to do it. It was just such like a all-encompassing emotional moment, and I was hysterical as soon as the song started, like let alone it just being a beautifully sung and performed song. Just like the meaning and everything behind it was so emotional, and that was the first time that I cried. Also, Jonathan Bailey is the hottest person I've ever seen in my life. His arms in this scene and like the half-buttoned white shirt, I was like, bitch, I'm trying to cry, but you look so fucking hot. I cannot control myself. It was 10 out of 10 all around. Honestly, might be my favorite song from the second act of the show. It is just such a beautiful song, and watching it come to life on the screen was so just like such a moment that I've been waiting for since I found out this movie was being created, and it was such a wild moment to watch it finally happen. Another moment that made me cry, the second time that I cried, was No Good Deed, which I would say is tied as my favorite song. Maybe it's like, or it's like second right underneath it. No Good Deed was phenomenal. The scene was so like just the way that they brought this scene to life. It's Elphaba's first time in the castle. You know, we're seeing all of these, like the Grimmeries going nuts. There's all these flames and fire. The flying monkeys are finally hers and they're like flying around her. And just the vocal performance, like the way that Cynthia Erivo is able to make those noises come out of her little tiny body is so beyond me, because she is truly like, she is otherworldly when it comes to singing. Like, she is just beyond, and hearing her sing and belt No Good Deed the way that she did, with the anger and the emotion behind it, like I truly believed that she was the Wicked Witch of the West and that she was going through these emotions, and she decided, I'm going to be wicked because every good deed that I do ends up like punishing me. Nothing I can do goes without, you know, failure to fuck me over. So fuck this, I'm wicked. And like just feeling her emotion through the song and watching her in the castle for the first time, like I said, like it was just such an overwhelming feeling, and I completely lost it during that scene. I will say the changes from the musical to the movie was a really big topic of conversation. I feel like when they found out that the second movie was going to be a little bit different than the stage play. The first movie definitely was not exactly to the book because it was so much longer and they definitely added some things to it. But the second part of the movie had the most changes with the new songs, which we'll get into in a moment, and just like kind of moving things around within the movie. But I will say, I think all of the changes were very necessary because they really helped move the movie along, where in a musical and, on Broadway, you can kind of get around different things. And, there are certain things that do kind of just go unexplained because there's only so much that you can do in a musical with a certain runtime and with the ability to do a live performance, where in a movie you do have a little more room to wiggle around. You're able to really go a little bit further and bring things to life. So I do think the changes were necessary. But that being said, there were certain things in the movie that I really wanted to see brought to life more, and this is a spoiler, I guess, but again, it's not really a spoiler because the show's been out forever. But the transition scenes from Bach to the Tin Man and Fiyero to the Scarecrow, I was honestly expecting some really intense transition scenes. Like, I wanted to see them fully transform from human into the Scarecrow and Tin Man, and we got a little bit of it. We did see Ethan Slater's hand kind of turn to nuts and bolts, and then I will say the reveal of the Tin Man was so great. Like, the way that he just started breaking down the door and like that's how we find out that he is the Tin Man was really well done. But I did expect more in the transition. I wanted a little more, not gory. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I didn't need it to be like the Substance where they're like doing all of that body gore, but I thought that we would at least see like Fiyero turning into the Scarecrow, and they kind of kept that under wraps until the very last scene of the movie, which does make sense. It isn't his movie. It's not the Tin Man movie. But with a musical, when it's a stage show, there's not so much that you can do to bring these things to life. You are limited on Broadway, despite all the technology that we have. There's only so much that you can do. In a movie, sky is the limit. Like, you can show all of these crazy, unrealistic things. So I did kind of wish that we saw more of that. However, I do understand that the movie is not about Fiyero and Bach as much as it is Glinda and Elphaba, and they needed so much time to kind of move on from the story. So I understand it in that sense, but I was going into it hoping that we would see really cool transition scenes, and we didn't get to the level that I wanted. However, the movie was still fantastic. Like, I'm not going to let that harp on anything that, is changing my opinion on the movie. It's a very minor detail. On the topic of things that they did change, the original songs were fantastic. So Cynthia's is called No Place Like Home. Ariana's is called Girl in the Bubble. Sonically, I liked Cynthia's better. I just thought it was more wicked and more, I don't know, it felt more like musical to me, where Ariana's was more ballady, and both songs are beautiful and they both show off their vocal ranges so well, but sonically I did like Cynthia's better. However, the lyrical content of Ariana's was very touching and very like self-reflective, so they both shined for different reasons, but personally I did like No Place Like Home better. They really fell perfectly into the movie and they didn't take away from any of the other songs that we know and love. They didn't overshadow anything. The, No Good Deed, As Long As You're Mine, all of those still really were the really big, like, grabbing moments of the movie, where those songs kind of just help to like move the story along and help, add a little bit more musical to the movie. So I understand why they added them, but I don't think that they took away or overshined any of the other songs within the movie, which is the right way to do it. I think if these songs were trying to become the new For Good or the new, whatever it was, like in this movie, there's no way that's going to happen. And I think they perfectly fit into the movie the way that they needed to. So job well done to Stephen Schwartz and everybody else who worked on these songs. And now, speaking of For Good, the last 20-ish minutes of this movie, from For Good to the very last scene of this movie, had me, my God, I felt every single emotion under the sun from the moment Glinda gets on that horse and rides to the castle and they sing For Good up until the very last scene. And I'm not going to tell you guys what the last scene is, because the last scene of this movie, they were so disrespectful for what they did to us with that last scene. They know what they did. They know what they needed to do to really just like punch us in the gut. And I'm telling you, the final scene of this movie is so perfectly placed and just... it was the perfect way to end this movie, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Kicking it off with these final, moments in the movie, For Good. The vocal performance that Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo gave us on For Good, we knew it was going to be stunning. We've heard them perform it live. We've heard, snippets here and there. This was so incredibly beautiful. I was weeping in the theater. I knew I was going to cry because it's just the song makes me emotional to begin with. But I was hysterical to a point where I was like, I need to leave. Like, I should exit this room because it was just so full of love and emotion. And you could really feel what they were singing through the screen. These two women have truly become these characters at this point in the movie and are just, you feel every single word they are singing. And it was so incredibly stunning. I'm always so in awe of the way that people can perform music and move people. And like the way that Ariana and Cynthia have completely just taken on these roles and given them such a beautiful new life on this screen adaptation. And we're able to move people with song. We know these songs, we know this story, we know these characters, but they really did such a wonderful job at being able to give a new life to these characters while still staying consistent to who we know and love as Glinda and Elphaba. And that is not an easy thing to do. These are very beloved characters. For Good is a very beloved song. And the way that scene made me feel, I thought I was going to die. Like, I was like, this is it. I could die right now and I'd be happy. Like, this is what I have waited for this entire time, is seeing For Good performed by the two of them. And it was worth every second. It was unbelievable, show-stopping, stunning, never been done before, just perfection. I can't wait to rewatch it. Like, I need to see the movie again, solely to see the whole movie, of course, because it was just all fantastic, but I need to watch For Good over and over and over and over and over and over because it was just unbelievable. The melting scene, I was really curious going into it how they were going to handle Elphaba melting, because similarly to what I was saying with Bach and Fiyero and their transitions, this is a huge moment in the movie, and like they really could have gone as theatrical and movie magic as they wanted with this scene. And I'm not going to say what they do for the scene because I don't want to spoil it, because these are things that I think everybody should experience for the first time the way that I did. But the way that they handled the Elphaba melting scene was so perfect. They did such a wonderful job and it was really special. And I love the way that they handled Elphaba melting in this movie because I think that it was just perfectly done. And then after that, just watching Glinda kind of like take power over Oz and tell the wizard he has to go, and realizing that Elphaba was the wizard's daughter, and telling Madame Morrible to go pick a cage because that's where she's going to live now. Like, watching Glinda switch the flip and completely be like, no, I am not going to be walked all over by these people anymore. I know my worth, I know my powers, and because of Elphaba and the things that Elphaba taught her about how to stand up for herself and how to stand up for what you believe in, you're seeing now this side of Glinda that really is Elphaba shining through. And just the flip that you see in Glinda in these last 10 to 15 minutes was so admirable. It's this whole new character, whole new witch, for lack of a better word. And I love the way that it ended. And then the final scene, the last 3 minutes of this movie were so perfectly done. I have no notes, not a single note for the way that they end this movie. From the second that Ariana goes up to the balcony with the grimoire, I won't say any other spoilers. I'm just giving you guys like notes to when you're watching it to know what I'm talking about. But from the moment that Ariana grabs the grimoire and goes up to the balcony to the last moment of the movie was so perfectly done. And I mean, this is such an important part of the movie. You are ending with the first one and Elphaba flying away, but we know that it's going to be continued. So it doesn't need to be, a perfect bow on it. It can kind of leave us guessing what's coming next because there is something coming next. With this one, there's nothing after this. This is the final time that we are seeing these characters in this movie. And the way that John M. Chu ended this movie should win him the Oscar alone. It was perfect. Everything about this movie I truly loved, and I just feel so lucky to be alive during the time of the Wicked movie era. Like, it is something that we have waited for as the Wicked fandom for so long, and it's kind of been like dangled in front of us for years and years and years. They said it's going to happen. They would give us dates and they would give us all these false hopes, and we never thought it was going to happen, and it is finally here, and they truly did a perfect job. It was worth the wait. It was truly perfection. I loved everything about the entire Wicked era, like from the announcement, seeing Ariana and Cynthia on Zoom, finding out that they're getting it, to the first look at them in Oz, to the first press tour, to the movie, to the time between where they were just giving us little droplets of Wicked for Good, to now ramping back up on this press tour and the movie coming out and it finally being here and seeing it finally just come to this epic conclusion. Like I said, they're calling it. It was perfection. And it's crazy that like this is, I mean, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, for like Oscars and things like that. But in terms of like new Wicked content, this is really the last time we're going to talk about it, which is so wild. Like, it's something that we have been talking about so much. The first episode of this show, we were talking about Ethan and Ariana, and it was the first photo that they ever had together. It was at that restaurant in New York City. And I was like, what the hell went down in Munchkin Land that like made Ariana and Ethan link up together? And now here we are 2 years later and they're still together. Both Wicked movies are out and like, it's done. It's so wild to me, but what a lucky time to be alive, truly. Like, I am so happy that we have the Wicked movie, that we can rewatch it as much as we want. I mean, of course, the second part will be out eventually, but you know what I mean. It is just, what a wonderful time to be alive. I cannot believe this is like the final time that we are talking about Wicked. This is crazy. It feels like something that has been such like a huge topic over the last few months of the show. And now it's like, okay, that's it. Get in your bubble, fly away. It's done. Very bittersweet. But of course, with award season and everything like that, Wicked is not going away. And I'm sure there'll be other things that come out because they're going to milk it and things like that. But for, for the time being and for, the memories of it all, this is it for Wicked. This is the final time we're going to chat about Wicked. And you know what? I feel good about that because it has been quite the honor to be covering this on the podcast. And with that, let's keep this ball rolling and head into our TV recap because we have quite a few shows to recap this week. First things first, Secret Life of Mormon Wives is back. And yes, I have finished the entire season already. I am not proud of the way that my boyfriend and I sped through this season. But you know what? When the TV is good, we don't want to turn it off. And we were hooked on this season. What I'll say first is I cannot stand Demi. Demi, whatever the fuck her name is, I can't stand her. I think she is dead weight on the show. And I don't want her in Mom Talk. I don't want her on the show anymore. I think she needs to exit and take her negative energy with her because even in the last episode where she was like crying in Jesse's arms, they were like making up or whatever that was. I'm not buying it. I just think she is evil spirited and I don't trust her. And I don't think she needs to be in this group. I think she is not that any of them are saints, of course, they all have their flaws, but Demi is just, I don't like the girl. I don't want her on the show anymore. I don't trust her. I don't think she has anybody's best interest other than herself. I think she is very selfish and she is always trying to protect her image and is not contributing to the sisterhood, whatever you want to call Mom Talk, as they refer to it as sisterhood. It's not a sisterhood. It's a fucking cult. But that being said, I don't think what she brings to the table is worth having her on the show or in the group. And I hope they say good riddance. You are done. We don't want you on the show anymore. Now, what I will say about her is the whole story and plot line about her being sexually assaulted by Marciano. Now, of course, sexual assault is not something to joke about or to say anybody is lying about or to not believe somebody, but it was very weird the way that like suddenly the story flipped when the truth started coming out. Once she found out that the girls were talking to Marciano and finding out what actually happened, she came out with this other angle of it. Now, I'm not going to say whether she was or was not sexually assaulted. That is not my place to say. Obviously, we believe people who say that they were sexually assaulted, of course. But it was very timely for her to bring that up and use that as the narrative as soon as she realized that the women were digging deeper into it. I think she thought that nobody would want to talk to Marciano or Jesse about this and they would want to kind of like let it fizzle out and dissolve. So once she realized that like Michaela and Macy went to go get lunch with him and they were on the phone with him and did the lie detector test and all of that, like I think she started to realize like, oh fuck, like I need to come up with, I'm not saying she's lying about it, but she needed to kind of spin her story to make it kind of seem better for her, I guess is what I'm saying. And again, I'm not saying she was or was not sexually assaulted, but it was very convenient the way that she came out with that storyline once it seemed to not be going the way that she wanted to. And just given her track record with the women and how she does lie to their faces about things, it's like you're not really making a good case for yourself considering you do get caught in lies constantly on this show. But again, I am not going to sit here and say that she was or was not sexually assaulted. That is not my circus, not my monkey. So moving on from that, I did feel really bad that Jesse's affair with Marciano got brought back up on camera after her and her husband clearly talked about this. They chatted about what happened, and then it kind of got rehashed, and they were just like pouring salt in an open wound that they already put a Band-Aid on, you know? And I was like really shocked that like they opened the season with that. Within the first few minutes, we find out about this affair. How are they going to build from this? Usually on reality TV, when there's an affair involved, they wait for like mid-season to bring that up to really drop a bomb. But like they fully just came out swinging with this. And I was like, how are they going to build from this? My God, did they build? Like they just kept finding new ways and new dramatic plot lines to add to this show. And it was great television. I'm not going to lie. Like this was a great season for the Mormon wives. They're 3 for 3, honestly. Like they're really bringing a new level of reality television to the world. And I am very thankful for that. I do think it was a little weird the way that Jesse invited Marciano to dinner. I did agree that was a little uncalled for, but at the same time, I understand like they were waiting for lie detector test results. They had nothing else to do. So like, why not all just go to dinner and like hash it out there and wait for the results? But I do see her husband's point where it's like, hey, that's a little weird and makes me a little uncomfortable. But I mean, it is what it is, whatever. The whole Michaela plot line with her and her husband, I understand where that could be something that like tears a relationship apart, you know, where there isn't that sexual connection there. But she's pregnant on this season. So clearly within the last less than 9 months, they were having sex because in order to get pregnant, you have to have sex. So like if she's just not feeling in the mood to be intimate with him, it could be the fact that like she is pregnant and like is going through a crazy hormonal change. Now, if this is something that's been going on in the relationship and they're painting it as something that's been going on in the relationship for a lot longer than the pregnancy, I understand that. I just think it's a weird like angle to approach with a pregnant woman, to be like, oh, our marriage is falling apart because we can't be intimate because of her sexual trauma in the past, which totally valid. That is totally fine. But it almost like piles on to the fact that like she has this sexual trauma from her past and she's currently pregnant. Yeah, I'm not surprised she doesn't want to have sex with you all the time. Like it just seemed like a really odd angle to approach it, and it kind of seemed like they needed something to fill in the season between like waiting for the Dakota and Taylor blow up to happen. Like they were like, all right, let's throw this plot line in and like really marinate on this for a little bit, because I mean, I guess they had the Whitney of it all, but I feel like Whitney was very just like, she popped in when it was relevant. She was literally just there because she wanted Dancing with the Stars. Don't get me started on that. Like the way that Whitney decides when she wants to be in mom talk and when she doesn't want to be, it's very wild to me, because I'm like, you don't get to decide that. This is like a group thing, you know, like you leave when you want to and you come back when you want to. It's not saloon doors. They don't swing both ways. You're either in or you're out. And she definitely tries to like cross that line. And the way that she was just fully was like, yeah, I'm only back because I want Dancing with the Stars. It's like, you're in this for the wrong reasons. And yes, it is a business at the end of the day, but like, you are in this because you are a selfish person. And I stand by the fact that I do not like Whitney. Nothing about her is fun. Nothing about her is silly. She makes some fun TikToks, sure, I will admit, but like nothing about her as a human being offline is likable to me. And I'm just like, I think it's like, she got Dancing with the Stars. She has wrung this show dry for everything it is worth. Let's let her be. And like, let's let her go with Demi and let them go do their own thing, because it's about time for them to cut some dead weight from this show. But yeah, the whole Michaela plot line, I just thought that was like necessary, of course, for her to have her storyline, but I felt bad that like it was being spotlighted so much when she is pregnant and does have this sexual trauma. It's like, this is something that can be handled offline. Also, like on-screen therapy always feels a little weird to me, but like that's just me. I don't know. And then the final bomb of the entire season is the whole Dakota and Taylor drama, which I mean is the bomb of every single season. I'm not surprised that they hooked up at Stagecoach. Like that doesn't surprise me, because like, yeah, you're both alone in a house. Like, why not? Like, yeah, that's toxic, but like, it's the two of them. Toxic is her middle name. I'm not that surprised. But the fact that Dakota then hooked up with somebody who is basically like family to her and like just continues to be a letdown to this girl and like just proves that he is a dog. It's so upsetting. And like, if I was Taylor, like I would be at his door with a gun. Like he has done her wrong so many times. I'm like, girl, you've got to stand up for yourself, please. Like, it is just to a point. I do think now that she is the Bachelorette, I think she will get a backbone, and she's like, no, I'm done. I'm over it. Like, we're good to go. I think this really was finally the straw that broke the camel's back, though it should have broken 9 straws ago. Finally, I do think that Taylor and Dakota will be officially done. And I think for that, we need to just be grateful that that is what we've gotten from this season. That being said, wonderful season. I enjoyed every single episode. It hooked me every episode. These girls are fucking batshit crazy, and I loved it. And I'm sad that I blew through it so fast, but also like I can't help myself. It is just so good. And on the topic of TV that is just so good, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City are finally off that goddamn super yacht, and the drama has not gotten any better the way that I hoped. The whole thing really for this new episode was the flight and what happened with Meredith, Lisa, and Brittany, and the fact that not one person had cameras up for the whole Meredith, Lisa versus Brittany thing on the plane feels so wrong to me. Like, not one person picked up their iPhone and decided to record what was happening. It just seems incorrect to me. And I'm like, what happened on that flight between Meredith and Brittany? Like, what was really said? What was really done? Meredith and Lisa are acting as if nothing happened and it was one little incident and like that was it. But the fact that 5 other women are saying, no, you guys were acting out of line and this and that and like all of this stuff happened, I'm like, they're not really painting a great look for themselves. Like, they are kind of digging themselves deeper in this hole that they are trying to live in this delusion that like whatever happened on that plane was totally fine and normal, when clearly everybody was bothered by it. For Mary to be bothered by it, like, Mary stays in her own lane, minds her business, and like doesn't let other people's behavior affect her the way that this is affecting her. The fact that she went out and got drinks with Meredith to be like, what happened? Like, what is going on? And stood her ground and was like, no, that's not what happened, Meredith. You need to be honest, is crazy. And I'm like, what did they do to Brittany on that plane that like all these women are so shocked by? Like, even Heather and Lisa in that conversation at brunch, granted, their friendship is so hit or miss. It's like if the wind blows too hard, suddenly Lisa and Heather are not friends anymore. So I'm not surprised that they had this kind of tiff at that restaurant. But like, even like that conversation, like it could have gotten a lot more mature and responsible, and it was fully just like, clearly there was no two-way listening from Heather, because she knew so confidently what happened on that plane and believed everything that was like, she knew what happened on that plane, whether Lisa wanted to say it did or didn't. And it's just so evident that like Lisa and Meredith are in denial of whatever happened on that flight. And I, for one, I need to know what happened. Like, I cannot believe nobody picked up a phone and recorded what Meredith and Lisa did to Brittany. And like, I do kind of feel bad for her, for Brittany, because like, she doesn't deserve to be like bullied or, you know, tormented like that, especially on a plane. Like, yeah, she's annoying and she's dumb and she's ditzy and she says stupid shit, but like, she doesn't need to be like, you know, laughed at or her chair rattled or things like that, or like being yelled at on a plane. Like, there's a time and place for it, and a plane is not that time. And even like whatever happened in the airport, they were saying Meredith was like going nuts in the airport, and like, Meredith is smart. She knew cameras were going to be down. She knew they weren't filming. I wouldn't be shocked if Meredith kept all of her emotions inside until cameras were down and then unleashed the beast. You know, Big Mare comes out when the cameras are down, but like, I need to know what happened so bad. I'm dying to know. I'm also dying to know how much they tipped the Below Deck staff. I need to know. And apparently the Housewife episode of Below Deck is the premiere of Below Deck. So whenever that premieres, I will be tuning in, because I need to know how much they tipped those poor people for the shit that they put them through, because that was wild. The behavior on that boat was so inexcusable and crazy. I need to know how much was in that envelope that they gave them, because I know it was a pretty penny. Yeah, crazy few episodes on this show. Also, the whole conversation with Bronwyn and Whitney about like what they've gone through in their marriage and like being okay with an open relationship. I'm like, are the two of you swingers now? Like, are you guys gonna swing with each other? Because like, I'm all for it, like totally fine. But like, that conversation was definitely out of left field and not what I expected from Bronwyn and Whitney. But honestly, with Whitney on this new, you know, her healing journey is over and she's kind of back to like crazy bad girl Whitney. Maybe her and Bronwyn will have a little rendezvous, but you know, let me not, you know, feed the rumor mill or anything like that. I thought it was really an interesting conversation for for those two women to have specifically. Like, for Bronwyn and Whitney to have that convo, I'm like, I wonder what this leads to. I'm totally fucking with you guys, but like, I don't know. It was just a very interesting conversation. And moving on to the final show that we're recapping this week is Selling the OC, which is back, and we are about 4 episodes in, I want to say. And I'm going to say right off the bat, I do not like this new girl Ashton at all. I think she is a mole. I think she is just looking for drama, looking for rumors to spread. I do not like her. The episode that we just saw, her husband was there, and the way that she switches, the way that she acts when her husband is there and husband isn't there, she is 2-faced, 3-faced, 4-faced, however many faces she has. I do not like her. But on the other hand, I will say I am loving the other 2 new girls, Fiona and Kaylee. I think Fiona is going to be so important to taking down Ashton and all of her bullshit. I think that she really is, she knows her really well and knows, you know, how she plays her games clearly with like their history and the things that she's bringing up about her. And I'm curious to see how Kaylee like makes her mark in the O group. I feel like she's going to be a really great addition. And then Fiona, excuse me. And then Kaylee, I just think is like the coolest person to ever walk into this office. Her fashion is so cool. She's like this socialite it girl. I'm obsessed with her. I think she is so cool, so fun. And I'm just really excited to see like what she brings to the show. And just, I don't know, I'm really enjoying watching her and Fiona. I think they're going to add really great plot lines to the show. But Ashton, she can choke. I'm not into her. I do not like her. She is nothing but bad vibes to me. But I'm glad at least I like 2 of them. You know, at least it's not like I dislike 2 and only like 1. I dislike 1 and I like the other 2 a lot. So, you know, it's at least like it's better odds than, you know, the other way around. And the other thing I will say, like I said, I'm only 3 or 4 episodes in. I don't remember exactly where we stopped, but I cannot deal with another Alex Hall and Tyler season. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Like I cannot deal with the 2 of them going back and forth again. Leave it in the past. You guys are not compatible. You guys have had so many issues from season 1. Marriages have split, like so much has happened between the 2 of them. And if they try to make this plot line again on this season, I'm going to rip my fucking hair out. And that's where I'm at with Selling the OC. I'm not that far in. I did not binge it the way that I binged Mormon Wives and Selling Sunset. We are letting this one kind of, you know, we're going at a normal pace. You know, we're not being psychopaths and watching it all. But so far, so good. I am enjoying it. But I'm watching Alex Hall. I'm just kind of over Alex Hall as a whole. I just like don't want to watch her on my TV anymore. Love Polly. Love to see her on the show. She is fabulous. Everybody else I'm pretty cool with. Yeah, Gio. What's the other guy's name? Oh my God, totally blanking. But the rest of the cast, I do enjoy watching. Alex Hall and Ashton are the 2 who I'm just like, not for me. But that is reality TV. You're not going to love every single person, and that's what makes it interesting. And with that brings us to the final segment of the show, the yes and the mess of the week. We end every single episode with a yes and a mess. A yes being something I am loving, and a mess being something I am not loving. And we always start things on a high note here at Too Pop to Handle. So kicking it off with my yes for the week is Olivia Dean's SNL performances. Now, if I remember correctly, when Olivia Dean's album came out a few weeks ago, I did say that as much as I loved it and thought it was fantastic, it wasn't something that I was going to go back to that often. I didn't see it coming into my rotation as often as other things. And I have to retract that statement fully because I am obsessed with Olivia Dean's new album to a whole new level. I've been listening to it. I think I just like put it on a few weeks ago and I was like, actually, this is unbelievable. And like, I knew it was great, knew she was talented, whatever. But again, I was kind of like, like it's not something I would go to often to replay. I can't get enough of it. It has been my go-to album. It is so just beautifully written, beautifully performed. She is such a talent. And those SNL performances that she gave us over the weekend were so perfect. Like they were so true to her. She sounded great. She looked great. They were perfection. And I am so excited to watch take over the world in 2026. I feel like she is going to have a huge year next year. This year was huge for her, but 2026 will be even bigger. And I'm so excited to see what she does and just like how much further she takes her career. I cannot wait. These SNL performances were incredible. The album is incredible. She's doing 3 nights at MSG. She literally had to keep adding shows because the demand was so high. Like she's coming into her moment. She's having her it girl moment. And I am so excited to cheer her on and just like watch her take over the world next year because it's going to be fantastic. And switching gears over to my mess for the week is the whole shit show that happened with Ariana Grande at the Singapore premiere of Wicked with Pajama Man. Now, the actual incident, yes, it is horrific. You know, nobody should be jumping a barricade and attacking a celebrity. Absolutely. But the fact that this is not his first offense, and he has done this to Katy Perry, The Weeknd, Chainsmokers, he did this at like multiple like like soccer games, and I believe at like an Olympic thing. Like, he has done this so many times, and the fact that like he is still able to get into these events and like not get serious consequences. He was put in jail for 9 days this time. I am sorry, but putting another human being in danger the way that he is, like whether it is a celebrity or not, like running on stage and grabbing somebody, attacking somebody, anybody, whether it's Ariana Grande or a regular Joe Schmo in the street, it's just not normal behavior. And like, I hate to get this dark, but like, think about Selena, think about Christina Grimmie. Like, the people who killed them were big fans of them. So to have somebody like this, yeah, it's silly, it's innocent, whatever. It is so dangerous. And the fact that he was only put in jail for 9 days, I do feel like there needs to be some other consequences for the things that he keeps doing, because again, this is not his first, second, third, it's not his fifth time doing this. He does this over and over and over, and yeah, 9 days, okay, cool, he's gonna do it again. Like, he's going to keep doing this unless they put a restraining order against him at these venues, unless he is on like a no entry list. Like, he is, I'm like honestly nervous for what he's capable of. I hate to say that, but like, it's just really, yeah, it looks innocent and it's silly and he's doing it for the bit and to go viral. But like, even in the video where he's like, I met my friend Ariana Grande, it's like, she's not your friend and she's fucking terrified of you. Like, you ruined it for everybody else. Ariana met nobody else at the rest of the premiere. Like, you literally instilled fear in her, and you're laughing about it online. It's just like people like that who ruin it for everybody. And then like, there's not serious consequences. And like, yeah, okay, he's getting 9 days in jail. I'm glad he's getting something, but it's just like, this is not behavior that needs to like be brushed off. You know, like, this is scary stuff. I don't know. I just like watching the videos like that and seeing things like that. And I'm like, these are the people who ruin it for everybody else and just like create these crazy, hostile, scary environments. And like, then people wonder why Taylor Swift is like walking by with a bulletproof wall at the Chiefs game, and like why these celebrities are so afraid of like things like that happening. It's just like, there's so many crazy people in the world, and like innocent things can turn into something so dangerous. And I just like, yes, I'm glad that he got some type of consequence for his action, but it's like, he still is putting people in danger. And again, it's not the first time, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. It is a multiple offense at this point. And I just am like, when is enough enough? Like, we've seen this happen before. When is enough enough? When are we going to actually do something and like stop letting him into events, or like make sure he's not getting into places and things like that? It just feels a little scary. And it's like, I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending, and I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, that is my mess for the week. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Too Pop to Handle. If you liked what you heard and you're listening to us as a podcast, go ahead and leave me a 5-star rating wherever you're listening. It seriously is the best way to help support the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and hit a subscribe, give me a thumbs up, drop a comment. It would mean the world to me. If you would like some extra moments of the week that were just too pop to handle in between podcast episodes, head over to toopoptohandle.substack.com and subscribe to my weekly newsletter Popping In, where I share extra moments of the week that were just too pop to handle in between podcast episodes. And if all of that is enough, you can always follow us on social media at Too Pop to Handle, or on my personal at Andrew Nucatola across all platforms. And with that, I will catch you guys next week. I hope everybody going to see Wicked for Good this weekend enjoys it. I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. Leave your comments about the movie down below. Tweet me, DM me, send a smoke signal. Let me know what you're thinking about this movie, because I loved it so much, and I know you guys will love it as well. And with that, I will catch you guys next week. Bye.